Today's video is going to demonstrate how to do the chain one turns or short rows that are featured in a number of Crafty Intentions patterns, including the dragon pattern, the Pegasus, the unicorn, and many others. The chain one turn short row sections are used to create a curve in a chest, usually, or the back of the neck, as in the juvenile dragon pattern. The front of the chest and the back of the neck leading up to the head both feature these rows. Additionally, the new seahorse pattern also features this kind of short row buildup along the front of the chest. Sometimes this can be confusing, especially if it's the first time you're seeing it, so I'd like to go over it and clarify any issues that you may have with it. I've written a short nonsense pattern that we can try out to demonstrate this work. Just 2 rows worth. I usually break up the short row segments into letters so that they're easier to figure out row by row by row within the row. So first, single crochet 15, chain 1 turn. I'm working on just a simple circle of 25 stitches. And I've already done those 15 single crochets. So I started back here, I've done 15. I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work, much the same way you would turn the work if you were working on a blanket or a scarf, to go back in the opposite direction, working along the same stitches you just worked. So the first stitch I'm going to make next is going to be in the last stitch I made. The chain 1 turning chain does not count. It does not count in the stitch count. It does not, you do not work into it. We're going to work into this last stitch, but from the back side of the work or the inside of the work. This would be the inside of the piece we're making. So I'm going to insert the hook there, and that would be our first stitch. The makeshift instructions I've written say to single crochet 5 in 1B, chain 1 turn. So let's do that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's how it looks from the inside of the work. From the outside of the work it'll look like this. The stitches do look slightly different, but there's a nice build-up happening here. And then we're supposed to chain 1 turn, chain 1 turn, so we're going to work from the outside in again, continuing in a clockwise direction. Next instruction for 1C is single crochet 15. So let's do that. We're going to crochet starting in the same last stitch we made, 15 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then here's where some people encounter an issue. Where does the next stitch go? It does not go into the side of the work. It does not go into a stitch you previously worked into. It goes into the next available stitch. So even though it's 3 rows below, we're going to stick the hook into the next available stitch and pretend like we're crocheting in a straight line, and make sure that stitch is tight and firmly made, because that will prevent any stuffing from sticking through a hole here. If you do have an issue with that, you're welcome to use a yarn tail to sort of sew that shut and make sure that your stuffing stays within the piece. So that's how you do the chain 1 turn. I'm going to show you another row that'll show us how to continue with this sort of style. And this is how you build up that front chest curved area. So the next makeshift row I wrote says 2A, single crochet 20, chain 1 turn. So I'm just going to start to work on that. That's 5. That's 10. The next stitch goes into the next available stitch up here on top of this buildup. It does not go into the side of these stitches. It does not go into a stitch you previously worked into. It goes into the next available stitch up here. So I've done 10 out of the 20 stitches. This is the 11th. And again, I'm going to pull that stitch tight. 11. That's 15. That's 20. See how we've got a nice row here, even though there's a distinct three-dimensional shape being created here. So now I'm going to chain one turn, because 2B's instructions are single crochet 15, chain one turn. So chain one, flip the work around, starting in the last stitch that I made, make 15 single crochets. That's 5. That's 15. So that's the end of 2B. I have this build up here, and it's beginning to make an even larger curve around the front of this tube. And then 2C is another single crochet 20. So first I need to chain one turn for the end of B, and then beginning 2C I need to single crochet 20. That's 5. Ten. That's 15. And then the next available stitch is where I need to insert the hook after coming down from this built up levels. So right there. And that's 20. So that's the piece that we just made. It's a little odd looking, but to demonstrate just this shape, the way to create this shape, the way to deal with these short rows, I hope that this helped clarify. Sometimes in my patterns in the short rows, I asked you to go beyond where the row started. Sometimes I ask you to double back several times within the row, not just 3, but sometimes up to 5 or 7 times. It depends on the shape that I'm trying to have you make. So trust the pattern, follow the pattern exactly, and that's how you manage those short rows and where you put your stitches, even when you're going between 2 to 3 rows up and a lower starting point. I hope that helped. Oh no. Tangles.